Welcome to the Choice, Change and Action podcast, where you get to choose, change and take action to create a different today and a different future. These are my stories of choice, change and action, along with the phenomenal guests I have on here. From a really young age, I've always desired to create a change in the world. The planet has been a constant inspiration to me, and Access Consciousness has shown me the tools to know that anything is possible. And I keep choosing. What are you going to choose? Going to be here. We're live in the studio, ladies and gentlemen. And here we're doing everyone's going to be so proud of me, just doing a little bit of social media as well. This is just
Hi everyone.
This is while we're doing a podcast live in my office because I have Shannon O'Hara here in Australia.
Yeah, I'm live on Simone's set. If you guys do a lot of Simone stuff or watch her stuff, you always see this nice wallpaper. I've watched you in this wallpaper many times, and now I'm live on the set.
Do you like the wallpaper?
Love it.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, me too. I like the dandelions. Although I was thinking that I wouldn't mind getting one that was like a photo, a big feature of Alugar.
Oh, that'd be gorgeous.
Yeah, like the rainforest.
Love that idea.
Yeah, so wondering if it would be distracting. Yeah, get wallpaper made up. Someone said to me one day, "You're rich, you can change it, get whatever you want."
Yeah,
like every
totally.
6 months.
Yeah,
I was like, yeah, good point.
Redecorate your whole house once a year,
So anyway, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Choice, Change and Action podcast. So if you are not obviously seeing what we're talking about, you can jump on over to YouTube, and we're on YouTube every week now as well. So I have here today Miss Shannon O'Hara. Thank you for being here.
Yay.
Yeah, and the crowd goes wild. I want to see jazz hands. Yeah. Beautiful sunny winter day here in Australia. So what's it like being back in Australia for a little visit?
Super fun. All my body therapists are here, so I get to get all my acupuncture, all my osteopathy, all my craniosacral. I'm feeling better than ever.
You know, I told you the other day, we nickname it my pit crew.
Yes.
Yeah.
The pit crew here is awesome.
Yeah. You fly in, you just see the pit crew, fly back out next tour. Yeah. It makes it easy. Yeah, they are. They're wonderful. So if you ever come to Sunshine Coast, ping me if you need anything with your body, because we pretty much know who to go to.
Lots of good healers here.
Yeah, there is. Yeah. Even our Pilates instructor, she's not just a Pilates instructor, she's like this amazing healer of bodies and phenomenal with the information she knows and just so talking about phenomenal with the information and I'm going to call it like an idiosyncrasy is how I see you with business and with money. I'm not calling you an idiot. I'm not calling you an idiot. Okay, let's be clear, ladies and gentlemen.
That explanation. Oh my God, I'm an idiot. I think it's actually idiot savant.
Well, you're an idiot savant.
To me, it seems like that too, because I can't work out how I'm really doing this.
Well, yeah, and it's okay. So let me go back a little bit. And I have done a podcast with you previously. If people want to check it out, you can go find it. I'm sure we'll put it in the show notes. And a lot of the questions I asked Shannon previously were about business and about how she saw business and sort of like the stepping stones and different actions she took in order to create the business. I sort of want to lean a little bit more into the money side of things today. So let me start off with,
well, maybe also we can say for people who might not be familiar with the kind of business we're talking about, both Simone and I are proprietors.
Prostitutes. Kidding.
Not this lifetime. We're proprietors of the commodity of access consciousness, essentially. So both of us run access consciousness businesses in different ways and really have made quite a industry of it. And that's what Simone is referring to. That's basically the business I run, is my sort of access business, et cetera, et cetera.
Which I love the fact that, I've known you, I think it's been about 21 years now.
Or 21 and change.
Yeah.
We're going on a while now.
We met when we were 5. No. About 21 years ago. And God, there's so many changes that have occurred and so many things that have showed up. I want to actually I want to also start. I'm being a little bit all over the place today because Shannon's already experienced that when she showed up. I think I had about 5 conversations going at once. But hey, you know what? That's how it works out. That's how it shows up. Using the Access Consciousness tools, I want to say, is imperative. And one of the most golden things I can say is it's a marathon, not a sprint. This is not something that you go, oh, look, I use these tools and overnight, kabam. Yes, there is absolutely magic and miracles that show up overnight, but you've got to put the work in. You've got to take some action and you've got to put the work in and keep using the tools and know that every tool you're using is creating that change. So for you, Shannon, one of the things I heard you say that motivated you to actually start, I guess, actualizing more money in your life with the business was knowing what you could contribute to. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Can you talk about that? Yeah.
Well, if we're really talking about money,
I'm like, I'm like doing American. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, okay. So the question is,
well, what motivated you? I mean, I know what that was, what you told me about Actions for Futures, right?
So motivated me
to start with making more money. Yeah. Because you're not exactly, I mean, I've seen you over the years enjoy things that cost money, but for a very long time, it's not the thing that drives you.
No.
Like you don't go, I want a Lamborghini, I've got to make money to get a Lamborghini. That's not your gig.
No, that doesn't work for me. That way of motivation doesn't work for me.
Mm-mm.
I think.
So I want you to talk about your motivation.
My motivation is like my life being easy. Like I realized at one point I was sitting in the economy class of I don't know how many times I flew to Australia in economy class, like kill me. And I remember just being like, this is so hard. Like, I hate this. And I actually was like, I want to stop traveling. And I think my dad was probably just like, well, why don't you just sit in business class? And I came up with all these reasons for why I couldn't afford that. And then I was like, wait, well, yeah, maybe what would it take for me to have that? So essentially it was always the question of like, how do I make my life? I think ease. See, all of life comes to me with ease and joy and glory is the mantra of Access and something that I actually believe is possible.
Mm-hmm.
So if ease is real, and ease is my priority, how do I make my life as easy as possible? And so that then is facilitated by money, but not only money, but money is a huge part of that choice.
I love that. And love that tool. So simple. Like if you actually are choosing for ease. And just to add another tool as well, recently, your dad, Gary Douglas, the founder of Access Consciousness, gave me 2 questions because I was all like I was trying to choose based on what everyone else's requirements were. And I meant all the staff of Access, like, oh, what do they require? That's what I should go do rather than me. And he said, you need to ask the questions of what would you like to choose and what makes you happy. And even just recently, someone, a friend of mine, great friend of mine, I'm going down to Brisbane and there's all these different things. And he's like, well, I can see you here, not here, and this whole thing. And it was all over the place. And I went, you know what? I know I'm going to see him and what would make me happy. And I made some secondary plans that made me happy. Whereas previously I would have gone, oh, I need to have all of my time available so that my friend can choose at any time and I'm there, rather than, you know what, I'm going to choose what makes me happy. And it's not about choosing
happiness
against.
Is your priority. And then she gave a great example of how she utilizes that, how that actually informed your choices. And I realized too, with ease all these years, like I've been actually trying to teach people, like people are always asking me like, how have you gotten to where you've gotten? And I don't know if anybody knows me, where maybe you have some shred. Anyways, I have a lot of money and I have a lot of ease. I feel like you're not allowed to say that. I'm like, a lot of money.
But you can, why not? It's like you have a lot of money. I mean, recently, I just in one sidebar had a conversation with Chris Hughes and he went, I'm a millionaire from using Access Consciousness tools. And then I was talking to Dane here and I was telling him and he went, so am I. And I went, I know, so am I. I said, we're actually multi-millionaires from using Access Consciousness tools.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so one of the keys for me, amongst all the bazillions of other keys of tools that we've used to have that is ease. And like, okay, so if I was going to make the choice for the most ease, what would I choose? And that's often informed my financial choices. Like I've rewired myself towards that way of dealing with money, not to save money, not to make smart money choices, but to have the greatest ease.
Do you have an example?
Oh yeah.
Let's go.
There was one Christmas, Max, my husband, were flying, I think actually to Texas for Christmas with my family. And we were in Brisbane, Australia, and we get to the airport and we were flying Air New Zealand through Auckland. And we go to check in, and the lady behind and I had a refusal of entry into New Zealand like billions of years ago, and that came up in their system. And Max and I had completely forgotten. Like they were like, "You can't board the flight. Like New Zealand won't let you come in." And like
because you have too much money.
New Zealand, who knows? I don't. New Zealand is weird with me. So we couldn't go. They were just like, we were, no matter what, they just wouldn't let us get on the flight. So we're sitting there. It's like the day before Christmas. And how many of you guys know that traveling during Christmas, the flights triple, quadruple, like they put up the price way up. So we're sitting there in the airport and I'm just like, okay, this is a weird turn of events, you know? So we go to the Qantas counter and we're like, because we couldn't fly through New Zealand. So no matter what, we couldn't change. We couldn't fly on Air New Zealand where our flight was. And so we went to Qantas, had the only flight that flew directly from Australia into USA. And we went to the counter. They're like, yeah, well, yes, there are 2 business class seats and they're $25,000. And I was
one way.
Yeah, one way. And at first I was like frozen in time of like that amount of money and that like the reality of getting.
We're staying in Australia.
And so I didn't just say no immediately, right? Like I went and I sat there for a while and I was like, okay, this is crazy. But the more I thought about making that choice and choosing those tickets, the sort of happier and happier I was getting. And I had the money. That's the thing. At that time I had the money for that. Right. And I went, oh, I shouldn't spend the money on that, or that's a stupid thing. Or
$50,000.
No, it was $25,000 for both.
Okay.
Maybe like $24.50 or something. But that was the most I'd ever spent on airfare. And it was way more than a ticket ever is. But when you're out of luck and you're just having to get what you can get, that was what the price was. I sat there and I was like, well, if I was going to make my life easy, what would I do? And I was like, well, spend the money. And I went, okay. But then I was in conflict with that choice. Like, because I could think of a million reasons why spending that money would actually not make my life easier. Because like, you're supposed to save money, be smart with money and not. And I remember I just like was like shaking. I like bit the bullet and I was like, okay, you know what? I've got to put my money where my mouth is. I've got to choose for what makes my life easier, even if it's uncomfortable, like excruciating. And I did it. I paid the money for those flights. And that was a turning point for me. Never again was money ever an issue for me. And now whenever there's, actually, I would say the demand keeps escalating. That was my biggest leap. And now I'm at other bigger leaps. Even.
I was going to say what I've noticed with you, because I know a lot about how you've chosen as well. And then for myself too, it's like you get this moment where a ticket, let's just round it up, $25,000 is this massive leap. But then something else shows up that's a massive leap. You know what I mean?
It's like it keeps challenging you.
Exactly.
Like, what about this $1 million tax bill? And you're like, okay.
Yeah. Well, and I want to just reiterate that 2 things that you said that I think are just so basic, and that you could have come up with a million reasons why you shouldn't.
Yeah, why that wasn't a good choice.
And how many people, like if you're listening to this, how many reasons have you come up with of why you shouldn't? And everything that is, and everywhere, no matter what topic you're talking about, everywhere that you are coming up with a million reasons of why you shouldn't choose something, will you please destroy and uncreate it, right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all 9, shorts, boys, perverts, and beyonds. Because what you look at is what you're avoiding with these million reasons or billion reasons of why you shouldn't, and what you're defending, right? So what are you avoiding and defending with these million reasons of why you shouldn't? Why you shouldn't. And it's like all the programming, everything, all the implants, all the explants, destroy and uncreate it, right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all 9, shorts, boys, perverts, and beyonds. As you know, clearing statement of access consciousness, you can go to theclearingstatement.com, and you've got a really fun video with myself and Dane talking about it. And we'll have it in the show notes too, but it works. So the million reasons, right? That's where most people function from. That's the majority of people functioning from, this million reasons why you shouldn't. Now, Shannon gave this tool right at the beginning of she chooses from ease. The tool I gave was that I choose what makes me happy. You notice when she said that as she, put her energy on it and actually sort of processed and engaged with the energy of purchasing these tickets at $25,000, it made her happier and happier. Oh my goodness, ladies and gentlemen, what if ease and happy were married together? Like, what if that's the life you can actually live by looking at what makes you happy and it creates more ease for you? It's like, where would your life be in 5 years' time? Where would it be in 10 years' time? Where would the planet be? in 10 years time.
But this is also coupled with like spending $25,000 might not be easier, make other people's lives easier. This was for
you
me,
had the money in the
I
bank
had the
account.
money, but I also knew that I could create more money. It wasn't like, this is my nest egg, this is my savings, now I'm spending everything. So it's not about like, I'm making a stupid financial decision. This was, I'm putting myself in an uncomfortable financial position that I've never chosen before. Can I do this? Yes. Am I going to let myself fail? No.
Yeah.
And that's another big part of the creation of money for me. It's, I'm not going to ever let stupidity, lack, laziness, avoidance, unconsciousness ever distract me, deter me, or keep me from creating what's possible.
Mic drop. Boom.
I think I'm a little bit unusual in that way, though. I'm always looking for the reason how and why I can and that I can, not for what is hard and what's not possible. I'm just geared differently. I had to like retrain myself not to be limited.
I love that. Retrain yourself not to be limited. Well, recently, I mean, I'm doing it at the moment with my ex-partner. It's like we created so much stuff together, companies, trusts, wealth creation, everything. And it's been quite a few years since we broke up, and been meeting with the accountant. I'm buying him out of this house, getting a binding financial agreement. It's called, learning so much. I love gaining, knowledge and awareness on how to do things. But there's been like financial advice is, hey, maybe you shouldn't do this now. Maybe you should do this one over 2 years. And I'm like, no, I'm done. I don't want to have this anymore.
And how much would keeping that financial agreement with your ex-partner for 2 more years, how much would that actually cost you in energy, emotional energy, rather than you can pay with money or you can pay with something else. One way or the other, you're always going to pay. That was a big financial lesson I learned from, I think probably Gary taught both of us. One way or the other, you're going to pay. You're going to pay with money, or you're going to pay with like the pain of your body by sitting in economy, or by your time and energy back breaking to like, do whatever. You're going to pay one way or the other. So for me, I just realized that paying with money was usually easier. And again, ease is my key.
Well, and then when you look into this, and if you guys can look at the energy of how we're talking about it, because it's an energetic choice. What brings ease, and energetic for you, not as Shannon or not as me. It's like for you. So it's this energetic choice of what creates ease for you and what makes you happy. And for me, like with this whole deal with this binding financial agreement, I was like, no, I'm done. And I was like, look, I don't care if I end up paying more tax. I will create more money. And I've had to say that like 3, 4, 5 times for them to actually get that. I'm like, they're like, but you're going to save tax. And I'm like, I don't have a point of view. I will pay the tax. I will out-create this. I know I will. I require energetically to start creating my own financial wealth creation in the way that I know how.
I mean, what's so interesting about that too is if you look at this, what you're creating for is like greater ease, greater possibility, greater freedom. But what they're creating for is not losing money.
Yeah, exactly. What not?
And if that's your priority, not losing money, like, wow, like that never leads to more choices. That only leads to that one choice, not losing money. And then you become a slave to that. And that's really something I've had to be very careful of, really work through a lot through my adult life, is not becoming like financially insane. I would say I actually got gold sickness at one point, which I coined from Lord of the Rings, because Smaug has like, so basically like when the dwarves like find Smaug's lair, and Thorin, I think is his name, the head of the dwarves, he like gets like insane with the gold, like the hoard, and he like thinks everyone's out to get him, and like all of his friends he thinks are turning against him because they're like going to steal the gold and da-da-da-da. I've totally had that. I totally got the gold sickness. And I was watching Lord of the Rings one day and I was like, holy shit, I have that. And I right then I was like, wait, okay, snap out of it.
Yeah. Wow, so, that is really interesting. I love that gold sickness. Yeah, it's
a lot of people get gold sickness, but this is whoever's advising you to not lose money is a form of gold sickness, because they're completely, how do I put it, like controlled by the not loss of money.
But they're also doing their job as an accountant per this reality. Like I also have an honor account and I have a Joy of Taxes account. And it's so funny. I've got private banking in Melbourne, and they're just like, Simone, nobody. The guy's like, nobody that I've ever dealt with has had 2 accounts. One's called Joy of Taxes and one is called Honor. And the amount of money you have just sitting in your Honor account makes no sense to anyone. And I'm like, and my mortgage broker, all of them, they're like, hey, maybe you should use this money for XYZ.
Well, okay, but that's another big key about money, not doing it like anybody else.
Yeah.
for me, that's been the real key. Like I mean, I've gotten so sidetracked by trying to figure out how other people do money, and it always hurt me. And then I went, okay, so what would I choose if I knew what I was doing?
Yeah.
Or like, because sometimes I have to make I do crazy things that nobody gets.
Yeah.
And I feel like am I stupid because no one else gets this? Like, am I the stupid one? But the cool thing is that I have 20 years of track record of doing this, and I've just watched it work enough times that I'm like, nah, I actually fucking know what I'm doing.
So actually, thank you for bringing that up, because this is an energy I wanted to get to, and I wasn't quite sure how to slide in here, because I've seen the way you do choose things, right? And how do I describe this? It's like how you would make a choice with some things makes other people uncomfortable.
Really?
Yeah.
But I can't tell that, right?
Okay.
It's one of my autistic gifts or curses, however you want to look at it.
Well, okay, so what you choose is what most people would dare not to choose.
Really?
Which, wow, I love you. Hang on a second.
Okay.
What you choose is what most people would dare not to choose. Therefore, it makes them uncomfortable because you ask and request. And in their world, they would never ask and request that, because they have so many judgments and points of view of that is a bad, terrible, awful thing to ask for. And they spend their entire life like that.
That's more of the shouldn'ts, the reason why.
Yeah, exactly. But you don't. And I don't know, okay, you don't get that you do that, but I'm wondering if there's anything there that you could talk to.
I think in my world, there's no point of view that I shouldn't have what I want. And thank goodness that what I want is actually best for all. But that was not always the way. Gary had to really cure me of that. Because I used to, he really taught me the difference between kingdom of me and kingdom of we. And
Can you talk about that a little bit?
So I want what I want when I want it could be the exclusion of others, like dictatorship. I want what I want when I want it because it's best for everybody is a completely different place to function from. So that's like the king tree or the generosity of spirit,
the benevolence,
the benevolence, the interconnectedness of everything. So now, I mean, the reason why I think I get what I ask for so easily is because I'm congruent with what works best in the universe for everybody. So the resource for that is more readily available.
I love the way you just said that. And then stop. Okay. So people listening, and if we've just lost you and you're like, I don't know how to do that. And it's like everything at that is read Australian uncreate it, write on good and bad, pock and pot, all nine shorts, boys, provids and beyonds. So if I like I mentioned before, this is a marathon, not a sprint, right? And it's like, if this is a marathon, it's like, what's some of the little small things that you get that people could start making a change with?
I think the smallest thing that's actually also the biggest thing is paying attention to every single point of view, stance, energy, and choice that you make when it comes to money. If we're talking about money.
Yeah, well, so for money, and then insert life, insert body, insert relationship.
Exactly.
Yeah,
because this works for everything. Yeah. But with money, I've been able to really be hugely effective with this. I weeded out the limiting points of view. I can't afford it. Is this a stupid choice? Which by the way, isn't a real question. It's more like you're looking for the judgment of something. So I pay attention to every single way that I think. I mean, I remember being in Florida at some point, going shopping and coming home and being feeling bad about shopping. And I said it to my husband. I was like, I feel super heavy about shopping. He said, who does it belong to? I was like, oh yeah, totally not my point of view. So a million times of realizing that I was picking up on other people's points of view about money enabled me to be immune to other people's points of view about money. That's small, big thing. Pay attention to what you think. That is the key.
It's a guy cleaning the bins outside. It's a little loud.
We just got all civilizations need someone who cleans out the trash cans. I appreciate it.
I like my bins being clean. Yes. Trash cans. Yeah. Yes. Okay. I love that. So every single thing when you look at it, and don't make yourself crazy with it. At one point, there was a friend of mine who they were trying to get clear on their finances. I'm a big believer on getting clear on your finances, but don't create based on that. It's know how much is coming in, know what your expenses are, know your profit and loss, know how to read it. And if you don't know how to read a profit and loss, ask your accountant, ask your bookkeeper to show you, but you don't create from that, but you have the information. It gives you information.
So to further what she means by don't create from that, like when you look at your profit and loss, don't come to a whole bunch of points of view and conclusion about it. Use the information to inspire you. Essentially, that's what I do. I use the information to inspire me, which, by the way, if you don't know how to read a profit and loss, like me, because I'm really dyslexic, and even if someone explains it to me, I can't understand it. So I have to follow the energy. That's one of my curses and blessings too with money. I can't understand a lot of the logical places people are coming from. So I love the energy.
And the funny thing is, though, I was taught to follow the energy in way before Access, like the way my dad used to talk to me with a profit and loss. Like he literally used to say to me, he'd go, I want you to go through line by line and look at all of your expenses. And most accountants would say, what can you cut out? And my dad would go, look at it all. And I'd go, okay. And you go, do you need them all? Because you know how you might have a subscription to something that you don't no longer use. And you're like, oh, I should have canceled that, you know, that sort of energy. And then he would go, do you need it all? And I'd say, yes. And he'd go, okay, have a look at the income. And the expenses were more than the income, because quite a few years I was not making, you know, enough money. I was creating myself to be in debt.
Expensive taste.
Yes. Well, then I was just like, yeah, anyway, it's a whole other story. Read my book, Getting Out of Debt Joyfully. So, but I loved the way he used to say to me, okay, if you need all those expenses, and he wasn't judging it. He went, okay, so what else can you create? And that's literally what he used to ask me. That's what he empowered me with. What else can you create? So there's no end result here. There's no ending. There's no conclusion. That's all judgment. It's like, what else can you create? And you've got to be in constant question of that. It's like, what else can you create? What else can you add to your life? What other revenue streams can show up?
Which brings me to something that I have mentioned before, I think on the last podcast that we did about money, about I think that you and I talk about money as though everyone else has this kind of interest in money. And I don't believe that that's true. I think that you and I have a particular aptitude and interest and enthusiasm for money, which I think a lot of people think they should, but maybe don't. Like some of you guys might be more interested in like fitness or more interested in cooking or food. Like my husband is like, I would say like the idiot savant talent I have with money, my husband has with food. Like he just, I don't know where that's coming from, but man, you give him like no ingredients and he comes out with this like masterpiece every time. And I'm like, wow. So I think that it's also important to recognize, like in this conversation, you could easily be like, I should be more like Simone or Shannon. I should want it like that. But really and truly what I also get is the massive element of why money comes to me, especially is because I have a massive interest in money. I study about money. I read about money. I think about money. I learn about money, which by the way is strewn with bullshit. There is so much bullshit in the world about money. Anyways, it's of interest to me. Like I
love the way you always bring up, you always have this ability, Shannon, to tap into the masses and like what they're asking for and what's required. And I'm really grateful that you do that, because every single class I've ever done with you, or every podcast or every chat or anything like that, you always have that aspect. So, and you as soon as you talk about it, you invite into my world and it goes out. So thank you. And it's funny because as you're talking about it, I don't know, this is going to be an interesting podcast too, is you educate yourself about this. It's like my education would be more about business. And it's not actually the money. It's funny.
Well,
I don't
exactly.
Yeah.
For you, it's business, and for me, it's definitely money. I think business can be seen as a vehicle, as like a money machine, which I do believe a good business is a money machine. But I remember being in one of your joining business classes like years ago and listening to you talk. I'm like, and the whole time, this is where I have thought I was a total idiot, because like there's shit I don't get. I kept on being like, what the fuck is business? Like, what is she talking about? And this is what's so different about me. Like, I really do not function from many of the normal things that make total sense to this reality, which of course I was in special education all my life. When I say I'm dyslexic, I'm not just joking. Like and when I say I'm autistic, I'm not actually joking. That's sincere. So in school, they actually thought I was stupid, so I was in special education. My teachers actually thought I needed glasses because I couldn't read.
Right.
God. Now I think back on that. Anyways, so business to me makes no sense, but what does make sense to me is creation and fun. And I love,
which is business for me. Yeah.
Which is what I think this reality calls business. And like setting up all the tax structures with all the businesses, I'm like,
oh no, I love it. I love tax planning.
All this shit. Like this is so contrived, and it is. And a lot of the financial systems.
But that's the fun part. because you don't live within it. You outcreate it. That's the fun part. You go, okay, this is what they're giving me. This is the box that they want me to structure everything around. Okay, I'll give them what they need. Now I'm going to do this and this and this and this and just instill chaos.
What would it take for me to have the same enthusiasm for it as you do? For me, it's like,
you know, a good friend of ours, Steve Bowman, at one stage, I was talking about, you know, every company has a constitution, right? And every company, when you register a company.
Well, I didn't know that every company has a constitution. Is that like, does my company have a constitution?
Yep. If it's a company, it has a constitution.
Who wrote the constitution?
It's a standard constitution, right? So most people do not change their constitution. Like they just have a company.
Is this a written document?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Like there's okay. So for example, in the company of Australia has a constitution. So in the Constitution of Australia, it's written, which I think is hilarious, that at any time it makes it easier to pass a law or to have a regulation, right? That's how a constitution works. So at any time that Australia and New Zealand choose, New Zealand can become a state of Australia, you know, for it to create greater, which I think is hilarious, because so it wouldn't have to go through this whole thing. It's written in the constitution that if the government of New Zealand and Australia actually went, yes, let's do it, it's going to create something greater, it's done with ease rather than having to fight for this because it's already in the constitution. Now, anyone knows anything about Australia and New Zealand, I think New Zealand would rather go down, you know, sinking and sticking needles in their eyes than actually become
somebody in the beginning
a state of Australia. Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. So, but a constitution, and I was always like, meh, and very dismissive of it because I was like, God, they are long and boring is what I was looking at. And Steve Bowman, our friend, was like, oh, constitutions are so much fun. And he was like, and he taught me to read a constitution from the joy of it and the manipulative energy that you can be with it and how you can change things today and in the future by the constitution you have. So, and for me, that is like why business is so joyful, because it's so friggin' malleable. So with that, it's like, is that how you see money as well, that it's malleable? Or
well, I mean, the thing is, even just listening to you talk about this is so interesting because I've been also working a lot more closely with David Kubis, who's like the chief counsel of access consciousness and with the Right Riches classes, and the way he does money is way more like how you think about business and law and constitutions and this and that. And I just can't think like that, like not because I don't want to, trust me, I try. I just am in some other universe. And like for me, magic is way more easy. Thank God, I actually know how to access it. So it's, I would say I'm different, which is why I think this conversation is amazing, because neither one of us needs to agree on the way that we get there. You recognize my way works. I recognize your way works. Now, what can I learn from you? What can you learn from me? And that's actually being financially smart and not needing to be right.
And that is such a key element, Shannon. So if you're listening to this podcast, because Shannon and I could sit here and talk forever about business, money, constitutions now, and I'm kidding. And it's like, but if you're listening to this, take the bits and pieces that work for you, because that's how, you know, years and years ago, I always thought that accountants, lawyers, you know, etc., they knew everything until I realized they didn't. And what I would do then is I would talk to financial advisors, accountants, lawyers, everything, and I would listen. And as someone says something and he just goes ping, like for me, it's just got that, it just pings out. It's like bold and italic and bright and shiny and goes boom. And I go, oh, what's that? And it's like, that's the piece of information I'll take and I'll educate myself on it, find more information out about it.
That we
ask
both
another
actually,
question,
we both share that. We both do that.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I said to you, I wanted to ask you about how you've structured your business, talk to the entities, etc. And now coming into doing Right Riches for you and how those systems, and now you're sort of dealing with that with access. So we've been talking a little bit about it. And look out for those classes, guys. Right Riches for you. They're going to be absolutely, well, they are phenomenal. They've already been happening, but it's going to get bigger and bigger and greater and greater. But I said to you, and I always said to a few people, you said to me, did your dad ask you to do this, to talk to me? And I was like, oh no. And I said,
no, Simone had, let me tell the story better.
Okay.
Simone goes, she knows I was coming to Australia. And she goes, hey, can I take you to lunch and ask you how you're doing your business? And I was like, did my dad put you up to this? Because Simone like never asks me what I'm doing with my business. I feel like I'm like this like forgotten about weedy patch and down in the corner of the garden that no one's been tending, that is all of a sudden starting to thrive. And everyone's like, wait a second, what's that weed doing?
It's like you got a new car and everyone goes, what is it? What are we doing? Yeah.
So dad telling you to ask me? You were like, no, like it was genuine a question from you.
But I said, no, I said, no, it's me. I want to ask you. I want to find out what you're doing and outcreate you. I was like, why not? Why would you not outcreate everyone? Like, pick people in your life that you see of what they're doing, what they're creating. You know, watch some stuff, read some books, like go to a class, do all of that and outcreate it. And outcreating is not about competition. It's literally duplicating the greatness that you see in others and outcreating it with the capacities that you have beyond your imagination. So it's beyond what anything that you've decided you could do or you shouldn't do. You go leaps and bounds into what you're referring to is the magic. It's time, ladies and gentlemen. Time for the magic. Yeah. But be you. Do it as you do. And you know what?
You can only do it your way, really.
If it's
that's a prerequisite for real true money magic. If you try to do it like others, it'll never work.
And the story that Shannon told before about the $25,000, and that was a great leap for her. It's like, I just want to reiterate what Shannon was referring to. $25 might be a big leap for you. You know, $2,500 might be a big leap for you. And it's like, don't function from this place of like unconscionable desires of like, oh, I want to have that same, moment as Shannon with the $25,000. It's like, it could be anything for you. It could be like buying someone dinner. And it's like, that's a big like, ooh, that's like, does it create more ease? Does it make you happy? And it's like, and can you actually afford it? But I'm also, that's a bit of a slippery slope.
Yeah, I don't like that question. What would it take to afford this? I think is a better question.
Yeah, because you don't have to have the money. That goes into a whole other thing. You don't have to have the money in the bank account to choose it. It's about choosing it. There you go. That's a better roundup before we actually go into a whole complete other book.
It's about choosing it. Yeah, choice. Yeah. Definitely.
There we go.
The reasons. Yes.
It's about choosing it.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you so much for being on here.
Thanks for
having me. Where can people find you? I always love that question because I'm like, well, you want someone to say what's my address? No.
Okay, so Shannon-O'Hara.com. That website is my website. Talktotheentities.com. accessconsciousness.com/Right Riches is the new Right Riches microsite, which I invite all of you guys to go on because there's a free opt-in where I do like a half an hour of like Right Riches download for you guys. Do that. And then Instagram is @Shannon-O'Hara-Douglas.
And we'll have all of those in the show notes as well. And highly recommend is a book that, was it Gary and Dane that wrote Right Riches for You?
Yes.
Yeah, Gary, Douglas and Dane here wrote Right Riches for You. Add it to your, Audible, your book list, because it's freaking brilliant.
It's Megan Hill reads it and it's a wonderful book to listen to. And I would say that like everything that I learned about, I came with a lot of awareness about money, but Gary really taught me how to be with money, create money, generate money, manage money, grow money. And for me, Right Riches is the genesis of that. So I can't.
So you're an idiot savant. Gary's a freak of magnitude.
He is what's it going to take for me to be even a greater freak?
Yeah. All right, let's do it. Let's do it. So what's your second favorite book you're reading at the moment?
Well, Simone, I'm just noticing that you have your Joy Avoids this book here on the table. This is like such an incredible book. And like, if any of you guys want to know about how to actually create a money machine called business,
I made her do that. So thank you so much, Shannon, for being here. Thank you. Thank you for everything. Thank you for just the bright spark that you be.
Yes. How's it get better, guys?
How does it get any better? Mwah. And we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone. If you enjoyed this podcast, please make sure to hit the follow or subscribe button on your favorite listening platform to get notified of new episodes. We read all the reviews, so if there's any topic you would like to hear about, let us know. If you'd like to know more about the tools, information, and classes mentioned in the podcast, head on over to SimoneMilasas.com and follow me on Instagram @SimoneMilasas, or the podcast has its very own link on Instagram @Choice, Change, and Action. Don't forget, you can download the show notes. And lastly, have way too much fun today.